Hello, my name is Christian from TradeVola, trading with know-how and transparency. Today we want to discuss what happened in the last week. I think many of you already know what happened with the two banks in the US who failed. Like the first one was Silvergate, a very crypto-friendly bank, but I think it was already last Wednesday. The big issue was Friday, Silicon Valley Bank, because it was since the financial crisis 2008 the second biggest bank which failed. And today we want to discuss the details, what exactly was the reason for this, and maybe how you can use this for your further investments. If you don't want to miss any of these videos in the future, subscribe here to our channel. We would be happy. And now we want to have a look here at the screen. Yeah, we want to discuss the two banks first with Silvergate Cap Corporation, where we see here the chart behind, and then Silicon Valley Bank. But just let's talk first about some issues, some numbers, because I heard everywhere now the next bank crisis will come. We are almost in the same position like in 2008. And can there be a bank run also on my bank where I might lose my money? And these are things or concerns what we need to talk about. I mean, nobody knows what will happen in the future, and nobody knows if the information what we get from other banks are 100% truth, or will there be more issues upcoming next. We will also talk later on Credit Suisse, where we had today some interesting news. So the whole situation is not so easy, but we have to look at it and the details, what exactly happened. And I think we should start here with Silvergate. The stock itself is still tradable as it's Silvergate Capital, and only the Silvergate Bank was closed earlier last week. But first of all, what is important to understand that the market capitalization of Silvergate is really small comparing to Silicon Valley Bank, what we are talking later about it. So to compare these both, they are really on a different field. This is a regional bank. Silicon Valley Bank had much more money and, like I said, also a quite big market capitalization. The first thing what we need to talk about, Silvergate delayed the quarterly earning result, what was already causing the first concerns. And then to understand the business of Silvergate, I think this article is quite interesting. It was one of the biggest lenders to major crypto firms, and it was doing transfers between exchanges and market makers. So it means if you closed your crypto trading account and you want to have your money back from the crypto exchange where you're trading on, they will do this transaction with Silvergate to get you your cash, your dollars, your euro back in your account. And if this happens all in a very short term, then it can cause some issues, because not all the banks have so much cash in your account, because most of the money is also invested in some other products, some other securities to gain some interest, to make some profits. And this is exactly what happened here with Silvergate. And what was the reason for it? I think everyone remembers Sam Bankman-Fried arrested here for the big fraud with FTX. Also here we can see it was on the 11th of November. Now this this news caused, of course, that there are a lot of people closing their accounts, not only maybe because cryptocurrency didn't develop that well and price went a little bit down. So for example, now in December, Silvergate had a deposit of almost $13 billion, and this went down to $4 billion. So they had to borrow money, they had to sell assets, and that's the main thing why everything went also so fast. They had to sell assets when were invested on a long-term perspective, and especially in bonds or treasury bonds. Now with the rising interest rate by the Fed, they caused a lot of losses. So and that's exactly what we saw over the last couple of weeks, and especially in the last In the last month, in January, it was over 8 billion withdrawn in only 1 month. And like I said, they didn't only have to sell their existing assets, they only have to borrow money from a bank in San Francisco, I think, for short-term loan. And also this cost higher interest, what they had to pay it back. So in the end, to make it short, we know the end, Silvergate lost a lot of money, and the price went down now to $2.30. It's still tradable, like I said, and different to the next story, what we have now for the Silicon Valley Bank. You still can have a look here at the chart, but as the trading was halted on Friday after stock went down 60%, this is not tradable anymore. And this happened, I think, exactly on last Thursday, what we see here, 9th of March. And this week it was already not tradable anymore. Here it was a little bit different than Silvergate. Silvergate was very close connected to cryptocurrencies, and as the market is volatile and we know cryptocurrency, there's still some issues maybe with also some customers what can bring trouble to a bank what is connected to only crypto firms or mainly to crypto firms. Silicon Valley Bank was first of all downgraded by Moody's, and to start with the same information like with Silvergate, now you can see here the difference. We are talking about market capitalization from 3.5 billion, and here you can see what is the difference between Silvergate and Silicon Valley Bank. Silicon Valley Bank here with the symbol SIVB. It's much more bigger and also had different customers. So Moody's downgraded first of all Silicon Valley Bank. For this it had to sell more shares to potential investors, and that's already something what caused concerns. Mostly Silicon Valley Bank was working with venture capital and startup clients in Silicon Valley, and after they realized, okay, they need to bring more stocks to the market to get more money, it was already something what started a small bank run, a small panic. And for example, we can see it here comparing to the 8 million what we had in Silvergate Bank. Here with Silicon Valley Bank it was 42 billion in one day, the biggest bank run in 1 decade. And that's exactly what happens if you work with a special industry, if all their advisors or venture capital advisors for all the startups that like we have some concerns and better maybe get your money out of your bank, then exactly this can happen here. What happened to SVB Bank in the last weeks. And first day the trading was halted, and now they want to pay back all the deposits, at least what was insured with SVB is I think $250,000. It sounds good for everyone who had up to $250,000 in the account. What was also mentioned on the weekend, that they will get their money on Monday. So far sounds good, and I think very wise from the FDIC to announce this very soon, to also calm down the panic a little bit. But if you see the numbers, almost 96% of the deposits are not insured, because there are some foreign accounts and everything over this 250,000 is not insured. And you can assume, I told you in the beginning, startup clients from Silicon Valley, they will not have only 250,000 in their accounts. So that's here a big issue what we have to look in a little bit closer. The good thing is there are still loans which SVB had and which will be paid back, and the FDIC will use hopefully these loans to also cover some of these losses, so people should get hopefully soon their money back. So I think this is quite interesting. Also here we have already the next announcement that there will be Silicon Valley Bank sold to another bank most likely. So in some cases I think it should also operate maybe under another name in the future again. But to understand what happened in the whole industry after we saw these two charts here, we also can see some other regional banks like Pacific West Bank Corporation, where the trading was also almost halted. These are all regional banks. You might know, maybe if you're not living in the US, most of these banks you never heard before. Same here, the First Republic Bank, is also a regional bank from the US, and another bank what is quite close connected to also cryptocurrencies is Signature Bank, and we see Signature Bank, it's also still holded the trading since the 10th of March. There's no more trading in this symbol, and what is interesting to see, that's really regional banks. If you look at big banks like JP Morgan, they have a quite bigger client base, not only in one specific area, and that's the question from the beginning: can a bank run also happen to these banks? In theory it can happen, but as this was really something what is connected here for cryptocurrencies with Silvergate, and for Silicon Valley Bank with startup clients from Silicon Valley, it was a different scenario. But if we now look a little bit closer, what happened after last week? We had today Credit Suisse. What happened with Credit Suisse? Credit Suisse had also some news, what I will show you here on the screen. And the biggest investor of Credit Suisse, what is Saudi Arabian bank, said it can't invest more. And then here we see it, the chairman of the Saudi National Bank said this early on Wednesday, that it can't invest more than it moment does. So that was the news what already caused this drop today, about in total I think one of the lowest prices in Credit Suisse since the last 5 or 10 years. But we also have to see Credit Suisse had already big problems the last 5 quarters. They always reported losses, and also the Swiss National Bank already said if there's any problem with liquidity, they will help out. But still, it's after we see two, let's say, regional banks in the US, we have now Credit Suisse. So I think the whole industry is nervous. There can be a panic also for some other banks outside of the US, and we want to show you another good example for banks or brokers here which are already recovering, or people using low prices to buy new shares, new stocks, new positions in these banks. For example, here Charles Schwab, we saw one of the only banks today with a big profit of 6%. It said it has no problems with liquidity. It's really well prepared for different scenarios. So Charles Schwab is one of the examples. So it can be a good investment on the long term, but for everyone who is more or less a swing trader, I would stay and wait a little bit what will happen in the next few weeks. We saw same or similar things also in JP Morgan last week already, and here you can also compare how much JP Morgan went down comparing to these small, regional banks in the US. Still Silicon Valley Bank, I didn't know if I said it at the beginning, was the second big failure in the US history of banks. So that's something what might make a lot of people concerned. And especially here we have another ETF in a chart. What I want to show you, it's the ETF for regional banks, and I think this shows where was the biggest losses. It is really small regional banks connected to certain customers, like we had in these two examples. Yeah, I think it's quite interesting. What was the reason for it and how you can use it, and maybe also what can happen in the future, especially if we look back in 2008. And like I said in the beginning, if you don't want to miss any of these videos in the future, make sure to subscribe to our channel, leave a like and a comment. We try to answer everything as fast as possible. So hope to see you soon, and stay safe.